Rent in the United States is high, and so are home prices. Data from the Federal Reserve shows price indexes for home and rent are up nearly 50% compared to before the pandemic. So what can be done about it? The Biden White House has some ideas, and it's likely to come up on the campaign trail as housing is a key part of the American budget and a key driver of inflation. Jeanna Smialek joins us now. She covers the Federal Reserve and the U.S. economy for the New York Times. Jeanna, it's good to have you back again. Help me understand how and why housing is stickier in the inflation picture than maybe some of the other things we hear about.
Right. It's very important to understand how housing is actually calculated inflation to understand why it's so sticky. We don't really look at home prices per se in inflation. And there's a good reason for that, which is that your home is not just a thing that you pay for. It's also a thing that you kind of invest in. It's a financial asset at some level. And so when we look at housing inflation, what we're really talking about is rental inflation. And when the BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, is taking rental inflation into account, it takes past changes in rent inflation because those take a long time to trickle through the economy. You think about it, most people don't renew their leases all that often. So any trends that take place take a while to sort of bleed out through the entire economy. As a result, we've seen really sticky housing inflation. We had a big run up in rents in 2020 and 2021, and that's still sort of playing out through the numbers. And only now is that starting to turn. So this has been a really important part of the inflation story, and it's one that's sort of on the cusp of hopefully changing.
So it might change a little on its own, and because of the way it's recorded, as you just explained, you might see it go down. But help me understand policy measures that might improve the rental picture or housing picture. You take your pick that might come out of say, the White House.
Yeah, so clearly when we're talking about housing and sort of the import for the American voter, we do care about those owned housing prices a lot. They might not go into the official inflation data, but we've really seen them weigh on the minds of voters. If you talk to people who are in Gen Z, if you talk to people who are sort of boomers watching their children try to buy houses for the first time, people are very cognizant that first-time home purchasing is very out of reach at the moment with high mortgage rates and high home prices. And so we've seen a lot of politicians start to talk about that. You know, Joe Biden has sent out his sort of economic emissaries like Lil Brainerd to talk about the housing picture and what the administration could potentially do to make sort of encourage home building, which could help at the margins to sort of bring those prices down. We've seen Donald Trump talk about this. We've seen Nikki Haley talk about this on the campaign trail. You know, this is clearly an issue that people are very attuned to at the moment.
And so the Biden team, so they want to get more production. That makes some sense. Have Haley and Trump or Republicans offered any specific policy proposals that might fix this picture?
Yeah, Nikki Haley was asked specifically about this, and she basically responded that, you know, one of the reasons that mortgage rates are so high, which is one of the problems causing housing affordability, particularly for first-time homebuyers, to be really problematic, is that inflation has been high. And one of the reasons inflation has been high is government spending. And so she was basically sort of bringing this all back to government spending and suggesting that less government spending could help to sort of ameliorate this problem over the longer run. Donald Trump mostly talks about sort of vaguer terms about getting interest rates down. He hasn't laid out, to my knowledge, he hasn't laid out a super clear plan for dealing with the housing affordability issue. But it is clearly an issue that, I think that they're going to be asked about as this campaign moves on. It's something that you hear voters talk about all the time. It's something that people bring up as a top economic concern and a growing economic concern in a lot of different surveys. So this is clearly one issue to keep your eye on.
I'm going to sneak in a possibly wonky question, but I know you can handle it. Jawboning the Fed, a president who says to the Federal Reserve, hey, lower rates because people can't afford housing costs are too, mortgage rates are too high. That's something Joe Biden has not done. Donald Trump did talk to the Fed. Is that something we should keep in mind when we think about the campaign?
I think that's clearly something that we are going to see on the campaign. Donald Trump has already talked about this. He's already brought up the idea that interest rates are too high, that he would prefer for mortgage rates to be lower, that, he's a low rates guy, which is something he said all the time in the last campaign and during his presidency. So it would be surprising to me if that didn't continue, if we didn't hear a lot about the Federal Reserve's interest rates as this campaign wears on. Joe Biden, as you noted, has been pretty careful to avoid directly giving the Fed advice, to sort of respect Fed independence. Fed independence is something that, many of his predecessors took very seriously. Basically, since the 90s, presidents have avoided commenting on the Fed, sort of saying that their job is important and they need the freedom to do it without interference from the White House. Donald Trump very much bucked that tradition. So I think we're probably going to see Trump buck that tradition again. For now, Joe Biden has really sort of towed that careful line, has been careful to avoid giving the Fed explicit advice.
I knew you'd have the answer. Jeanna Smialek, thank you so much, as always, reporter for the New York Times.